which you would notice that those vocabulary of those sentences actually makes no sense. And let's move on. I'll give you another 10 seconds to look at the second text. Is that much more easier? And does those vocabulary actually makes a sentence that made sense? So I had to make a confession here. Whenever I look at the second text, mentally I saw the first one. And it actually applies to almost most of the text I read. So today I'm going to discuss a learning disability that is largely ignored in our education system, dyslexia. I'll start first with my own story. It was, I think, the first year of high school when my mom accidentally came across a passage about dyslexia. And that term, that passage, sort of gave an explanation to all those weird symptoms that has been happening on me. For example, I had good grades in elementary school, scoring about 99 out of 100 in those other subjects, except for Chinese. You can guess how much I actually scored on those tests. I got a 70 out of 100. Yeah, and that stood out in all those other subjects I took. And moving on to middle school, I never finished one of those Chinese exam questions, leaving those blank spots on my exam paper. And those friends or teachers who have read my essays rated them grammatical catastrophes or spelling nightmares. I think it was 9th grade when my teacher finally praised my essay because for once it was readable. In other words, she said, 你作文写得有进步，读得通了. Yeah, and after the first year of high school, I know that I might or I probably have dyslexia. The thing is, my parents would not give the matter a more serious thought because to them, the fact that whether or not I have dyslexia doesn't really matter to them. And yeah, they did make a point because if I have dyslexia, so what? I still have to take those exams, I still have to read, I still have to write, I still have to try my best in every exam to get a high score, right? So let's move on. What exactly is dyslexia? In simple terms, we can understand it as it's a learning disability that affects either reading or writing or both. Problems such as difficulty in reading, in understanding what you read, in writing, in spelling, in grammar, and also in pronouncing out vocabulary in your head. Yeah, so after knowing the special needs, I started to do some research into this topic. And what I found is actually very surprising. In those English-speaking countries, this neurological disability has actually gone through extensive studies. About 100 years ago, researchers have known a lot of information about dyslexia. However, in China, this disability is barely understood. This disability actually affects about 12.6% of school-age students in China, but the public awareness is only below 1%. When I told my mom about this data, she was very amused, sort of disbelieved. And at that moment, it actually occurred to me that whether or not I have dyslexia doesn't really matter because there should be effort to put into introducing this disability and this understanding to the public. Because there are people who actually met difficulties in those areas but are misunderstood. So let's move on to the social environment that is actually toxic to dyslexia. What have we got? First, we know little about dyslexia. And there's no standard diagnosis for dyslexia. And also, we underscore heavily on reading and writing in actually every aspect of life, yeah. Education in China is exam-based, which, ignoring our differences, we are forced to adapt to reading, writing, and taking exams. That, I'm not saying that is not good, but actually results shows that the quality of dyslexic students their life quality is significantly lower than those normal students. So whenever a child is not performing out their best, when scoring pretty low score on a test, parents usually jump to the conclusion that this child is not working at their best, is not, maybe he or she is lazy, is sloppy. They rarely explore the root cause. For example, I had a bad performance on my reading exam, and my mom always nagged about improving my vocabulary almost daily. However, what she doesn't know is that the amount of vocabulary I know is actually at the top of my class. So we actually ignored the special needs of those 1/10 of students because they are experiencing an uneven competition. And given this uneven competition, their relationship with students with parents, students with teachers and schools actually make the matters worse. The biggest trauma they have to get over is the feeling of inadequacy when they entered school, and also when they entered society, when they need to face a lot more reading and writing. And they might feel that we are lagged behind from other people. Students may get teased at school and bullied by others. And so this actually underscores a lot that we actually need to inform more people about this learning disability and promote more understanding. And finally, let's move on to the advantages, the neurological advantage of dyslexic people, which is it's sort of an advanced understanding of neurodiversity. Our brains are just wired differently. I may ask you, how do we read? So it's sort of a complicated circuit that in our brain connects different areas of, I think, visual, sensing, listening, and I think the last one is reasoning. Yeah, I believe it's that. And however, this circuit looks a lot different for dyslexic people. Is that a problem? No, it actually is not. Because researchers repeatedly shows that dyslexic people have their own neurological advantages. For example, we are better at visual spatial sensing. We are better at problem solving. We are better at logic explaining. So I may never know whether or not I have dyslexia, but I take comfort in the fact that we all have our very own advantages, and our special talent may just be right around the corner. Dyslexia is not a learning disability. It's actually a neurodiversity. Thank you.